Okay, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Andrew Lee. Is it possible to get a picture of him? No? Not right now. Not right now, but that will happen later, I hope. See him. Andrew is the founder and owner of Sirens Boatworks. He's a certified cabinet maker who has grown his team with qualified individuals who are craftsmen in their respective field of expertise. Siren Boatworks started small in a temporary storage shelter beside his home on Ile Bizarre, Montreal. Andrew Lee, his father Jim, and longtime family friend Ray Gerard completely rebuilt a 26-foot Chris Craft triple cockpit. They showed up at the Montreal Antique Boat Show with the varnish still wet. Andrew's first effort drew so much attention at the show that he became convinced that there was a market and need for a business committed to the art of saving and restoring the wooden classics of the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Today, Siren Boatworks is located in the beautifully historic town of Merrickville, Ontario. Situated along the Rideau Canal, Siren Boatworks has a main woodworking shop, a mechanical shop, a dedicated finishing shop, and multiple storage buildings and a marina, the Merrickville Marina. Andrew and his team love wooden boats. He's lots of experience and has been called to sit on legal actions as a wooden boat expert. Each team member specializes in at least one aspect of the restoration process. Most recently, Sirens has partnered with Fred Keating, an ABYC certified marine electrical engineer. Fred is assisting Andrew understand how the move to electric propulsion can be migrated into classical design of all sizes. Please give Andrew a warm Shellback welcome.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Can everybody hear me okay? Is the systems working?
Yes. Yeah, we're ready loud and clear.
Wonderful.
And we can see your slides too.
Okay, great. That's operating. Yeah, what a pleasure to share with you guys today. Initially, I thought I'd just give you kind of an overlook of what the company Sirens Boatworks is doing today, what we're involved in. Of course, so we were established in 2009. Our core business is the restoration and preservation of all watercraft, from surfboards to 42-foot cruisers. We are involved in resto mods. So like that was shared earlier, that we are modernizing boats of that era, the mahogany runabouts of the 40s and the 50s, with whether that's more performance or better fuel efficiencies or modern technologies, electric being one of those, and also visually modifying these boats. So we classify that as resto mods, where we do a lot of that. Upholstery. So it's a family business. My mom's a part of the business. She does the upholstery. My dad he does a lot of admin for me. So whether that's, again, doing completely custom work, resto mod work, or bringing something back to an original spec, we do our best to service that. Boat building. We are boat builders. We've successfully built boats with our knowledge of taking these old boats apart, having a big puzzle, having a good understanding of main structure, how they're assembled. We'd like to continue to grow that side of the business. We've become a wooden boat broker. We've grown that side of the business within the last 3 years. So we're buying and selling and storing and selling boats for folks, advising them whether that's their first boat or they're growing their collection. We're getting involved in events. So over the years, there's always been an interest of having a wooden boat at a party or wedding events, So locally here in Merrickville, there's several venues available for people to host weddings. So this year we've committed, we've secured a couple boats, and we hope to be more part of that industry as well. We're involved in aerospace. So we've recently completed a job for the National Research Council of Canada in Ottawa, restoring wooden turbine tunnel blades. I'll talk about those more in the future, but we've also realized that, vintage antique aerospace is rather similar to wooden boats. So we hope to grow that side of the business as well. We're also operating a small marina and offer wooden boat exclusive storage. And so in summary, that's kind of where we're at today. Typically we have 3 staff working in the wood shop, and we typically have 3 mechanics, whether they're servicing our marina side of things or working on rebuild of an engine or refreshing or any kind of mechanical diagnostics. So, we can talk first briefly about, and in summary here, I would love to, I'm going to share a bit of a story of Skipper, which Skipper is the boat. This is not that boat, but Skipper is a 32-foot boat that we built. And it's just a story of passion and love that the man that commissioned the build of that has for that boat. I think there's definitely a story there. But just briefly here, I thought we'd just kind of run through what we're doing. So there's the office that I'm sitting in right now. That's our main building. So restoration and preservation. So the boat we're looking at is a late 30s Chris Craft. This boat was brought back to original spec. It had sunk, and this was completed last August. But a year previous to that, the boat unfortunately sank up in Quebec. It was in a storm, kind of one of those just pop-up storms, and got free, broke the cleats off and everything. It sank. The deck was ripped up. The 50% of the planking was redone. But just a real epic boat. Of course, insurance comes into play with these things often. So we're used to dealing with that. But a great example of just, this is kind of the typical boat that we're restoring, anywhere between the 30s and right up until, I guess, the early 70s at times. Here again, just as part of our restoration and preservation. So this would be we're looking at a typical, a well-rounded restoration. And so, a lot of what we do is, being wood and boat savvy, people often don't realize that, these boats do require soaking up to operate correctly and to float efficiently. But a lot of the new people getting involved in wooden boats, they don't have time for that, really. So we do a lot of, this is set up to put a new bottom on this boat. So of course, the steps involved would be take the engine out, flip her upside down, and zero in on the structure primarily. So we take off the bottom planking. We do a full, this just kind of enables us to do a full visual inspection of the framework, the keel, the chine, the transom framing, the stem. So this boat's set up to put a 5200 bottom on it. So this boat, we've continued to disassemble it. But we do a lot of this kind of setup right here. So here is just kind of a typical setup in our main shop. We're looking at that big boat in the corner is rather substantial. So that's actually an aluminum hulled boat. The Avro Aerospace Company partnered up with Richardson Boats in the late 60s, and by using surplus aviation materials, they built several boats. They're relatively desirable today, just for the matter of it's all aluminum framed. Deck framing is aluminum, cabin top framing is aluminum. So this restoration was pretty important to us. So everything was pretty well rotten except for the aluminum, of course. So this received an all new deck, and all new cabin top, hard top, cabin sides. And so this John there is just in the process of applying the first coat of primer. It looks like he's replacing a lot of the plugs for the fasteners. It was all riveted together. This boat, kind of cool. So again, as I look at these pictures, it's just the characters involved in here. The owners are just so passionate about their boats. So directly to the right of that big boat, we're looking at another Canadian boat from the 30s. This is a Port Carling Seabird, and this gentleman's my age approximately. He's 38, 39 years old, and this was his actual second wooden boat. The first boat he brought to me was toast, absolute garbage, and that often happens. People that first get involved in the wooden boat scene, they tend to make some mistakes in regards to acquiring the right boat, acquiring a boat that doesn't need hundreds of thousands of dollars of work. So he went out and he secured this boat, beautiful boat. It's a triple cockpit. Will hold its value. So we've put a new deck on it, rebuilt the engine, bottom treatments, but all in all, it's relatively original, except for the power plant. And it's become so passionate about wooden boats in general. Since then, this boat was completed last year. He's since bought another boat, and he's not insanely rich, but he's just this is his hobby and this is what he loves doing. So this boat has done the tour. He was in Clayton, New York with the boat, in Gananoque, in Muskoka, doing the tours and showing it off and being a great ambassador for the wooden boat community, just getting people involved. And then we have a little boat that's right by the door at the back there. That's just final check over before delivery. Here's another just a quick example of an early boat. This is mid 40s, a Chris Craft, an American boat. So this boat came to us, and its story is of passion and determination again in our customers' end. The boat came to us primarily for mechanical when it showed up. And so, we noticed that there were some other funny looking things on the boat at that time, but the customer just wanted us to focus on the mechanical. So we fixed up the engine, got it running. And then of course, when it was ready to try to go boating, we realized that this boat needs a bottom. So that's often difficult commitment. So of course that progressed into an extra year and a half of labor to put a new bottom on the boat. And that resulted in 50% of the sides are new, and that progressed into ripping up the whole deck. The foredeck that we're looking at here has all been removed, and we've done a cold molded setup, which people appreciate. It keeps those lines crisp and beautiful, as we see in this picture. But a lot of fun, and this customer's just stuck it out, and he just sees himself as a custodian to this, and it's so that's kind of a common story. It was a bad example of a customer who just put his blinders on and was just kind of hoping for the best. And of course, it didn't work out financially in that regards, but he's left with a beautiful boat. The boat looks similar to this right now. This was a recent pick. It's off to our finishing booth right now for final coats and final assembly. But a long road, and just the determination from this man to get this boat done. It's remarkable. He's an artist, just loves the artistic value of this. Here's a big boat for as an example of restoration and preservation. This is a 42-foot Chris Craft. This was completed approximately 4 years ago. So what you see here is getting really close to the finished result, but 3 months previous to this, there was nothing there. This deck was completely removed. We replaced the underneath of that yellow mahogany is now a 1/4 inch of marine ply, and then we epoxy laminate the mahogany back down onto that, and that's we do that often. Call that a cold molded foredeck. But this boat was toast, and I just love this picture. And to me, it's just I have flashbacks. At this point, I was doing a lot of finishing in the shop. My role has changed a fair bit since then, but I just remember trying to get that yellow right, and very challenging. And I think I resulted in just thinning out yellow paint and kind of doing like a paint wash on it, if you will, to get the customer satisfied. But to me, it's just one of the most striking decks we've done. Beautiful, beautiful boat. Resto mod. So in this segment, just classifying, the work that we do as modernizing these boats, bringing them up to current ABYC certifications. So the main boat in this picture is early 50s 22-foot Shepherd. So the customer has picked those colors. It's this boat actually turned out to be a water taxi in Cape Breton. The owner developed a resort, if you will, and this boat was used to taxi customers from the resort to a local bar or whatever. So those colors are of that area. Acadian colors is what it is. And the custom U-bench design. But this boat was completely disassembled. And the story of love and passion on this boat, it stands out to me. This customer called me up. I guess this was about 5 years ago, and he had just bought this wooden boat, and it was sinking in Dow's Lake, and he couldn't get it started, and he didn't know what to do. So I rushed over. He convinced me to come over there, and sure enough, the water was over the floorboards. We couldn't get it going, so we quickly kind of in Dow's Lake, and he was complaining about he couldn't drive it. He just on and on and on. New wooden boat owner. So we got it out of the water, and he was determined. He appreciated the wooden boat. This was a friend of his boat, and he told the wife that when Johnny dies, I want that boat. So he bought it when his friend passed away, and just what a great custodian to this. So he didn't appreciate the fact that he really struggled with navigating the boat, the ability to move it into a tight spot, especially on Dow's Lake up here. It's a really tight docking area. There's all kinds of amateur boaters out there and paddle boats and lots of obstacles. He didn't like that. He didn't like that it leaked. He didn't appreciate the layout of the interior. So this is what we did. So on this vintage boat, the proprietary thing is that did not have an outdrive on it before we started it. It would have been a straight shaft, a V-drive setup, engine in the back, and a shaft coming out of the bottom of the boat, which doesn't facilitate reversing very well or maneuvering very well at slow speeds at all, especially somebody with inexperience. So we've designed this all in-house. It was about 100 hours of us just designing and figuring out how to mount this outdrive to this boat. There was a couple good examples of that time. There's another Canadian company, Clarion Boats, that they're building new wooden boats, and they've done similar things. So I just kind of appreciate how that looked. But we talked about everything from putting twin engines in the boat to help facilitate easier maneuverability. My mechanic didn't appreciate that. He's like, "How are we going to service these?" So this is what we came up with. On the right there, we're looking at a brand new Mercury 350. We got fuel injection. We got closed loop cooling. So just completely modernized on this boat. The boat will do about 45 miles an hour easily, and it's so a great success. Kind of controversial why we're doing it. A lot of people didn't think it was going to work, or that we shouldn't be doing it. But it made the customer very, very happy. So this facilitates ease of maintenance. So this boat, of course, is up in the Cape Breton right now, and now any marina will be able to service it for this gentleman. The requirements to find that old school mechanic is not necessary. Very easy to maintain and service. So this took a long time to do. It was completed a year and a half ago. There's myself. So we're just wrapping up on a gentleman's racer here, just finalizing some loose ends. There's some probably better pictures of this boat, but this again it's a spec race boat, and it started with an outboard. Actually, the customer brought it to me with an outboard, and once we realized what it was, of course, we're like, we should put an inboard in this. So we started with a V8, and it really was just too much for what the customer wanted. Took up too much space. So now it's set up with a modernized V6, very reliable. It's doing about 45, 50 miles an hour right now. This was completed last year. Upholstery. So there's that special Cape Breton boat again. This was all done in-house. Boat building. So here is Skipper. Skipper is, and I'll talk about Skipper a little bit more in the future. But this boat, of course, was a recreation of a boat that was burnt to the ground. And so with the ability of just understanding of how boats are constructed, wooden boats specifically, we can really build anything. So there's always kind of talks of building another one. And so with the use of a designer and the use of CNC equipment, we're quickly able to kind of take a design and send that over to our CNC operator, and he kind of makes us our molds. And then we're really kind of building a boat around the mold. Easy peasy. So we've gotten involved in the sale of wooden boats. So this is a prime example of this is a 1977 Riva that we've been servicing for approximately 4 years. Wooden boat brokerage. So a big part of our sales program is really, this has been about 4 years that we've been kind of refining how we do this. We really need to understand what we're selling, understand the condition of these vessels, because ultimately we're selling a boat to somebody that may or may not really understand the maintenance requirements. So we've got to take it upon ourselves to sell maintenance programs, make sure that the new owner is kind of walking into this with full knowledge of what he's getting involved in. And we definitely help facilitate the work. We do the work, but we'll go pick them up every fall and deliver them in the spring. A lot of people just don't like trailering their boats around. We're offering storage to these people, winterization, and just and coming up with values. So we've been called upon several times in court cases just to help come up with values on boats. So that's something that we're constantly doing. Of course, when somebody brings me a boat and I have to come up with the value, it's not always easy, but starts with just condition of these boats. Andrew James collection. So this is an example of using one of our boats for a wedding event. This is something that we hope to grow in the future, just locally here. There's a few venues. The aerospace. So this is a picture of us inside of a wooden blade wind turbine tunnel. So these blades are actually 7 feet tall and approximately 3.5 feet wide. So you can kind of see in that first picture there the deterioration happening. This tunnel was built in the 50s, and it's just it's difficult to get a real picture, but the size of the tunnel is 30 feet, and you're just looking up. Very, very cool. So the primary job, they were just worried about the deterioration. It's primarily used in the winter, so they run this up, and they're primarily used to test anti-freezing sprays on wings of airplanes. So they'll pull a wing inside of the tunnel in dead winter, like -20, and spray various products that are being tested and try to get approved for to be used on airplanes. So of course, there's lots of moisture, lots of ice and debris. They do all kinds of things to help the debris from coming in and hitting the blades, of course. But they really have not been serviced since the 70s. So we came in and we treated them the same way we would a boat. It just kind of made sense to me. So we stripped them down to bare wood, and then we used the first base coat was a penetrating epoxy. So it's about the viscosity of water, and it really helps dig deep. And we use this product on all our boats that we're restoring. The wood, it doesn't harden. You know what I mean? You're not getting that hardened effect. The wood retains its elasticity and just the characteristics that a wooden boat object should. So we use that as a base, and that really helps preserve them. And then we just used traditional marine varnish. So we applied 10 coats on top of the epoxy sealer. And there's a bit of figuring out. There's a leading edge material on the front that you can kind of see there. And so, yeah, we were dealing with a couple aerospace supply companies to figure out what that was. And it's like a polyurethane film that would be on the wing of a plane, the leading edge. So yeah, this was completed late last season. They tested us out with a couple blades at first, and then they committed, and we did. I think there were 17 blades in total. So of course there's as close as my neighbors into airplanes, so vintage airplanes, and he had me over and he's showing me these wooden components, and a lot of the structure is oak and other light spruce and covered in canvas, and it's all, I realized, hey, this is very similar to what we're doing. So we hope to continue to kind of grow that aspect of things. So this was a lot of fun, very cool job. Marina and storage. So this is in one of our storage buildings. I think it's 150 by 60 feet wide. So there's myself and my partner, Ashley. She helps with event coordination. And so, yeah, the thing with that you guys are probably savvy of is, the wooden boats, they do require cold covered storage. A lot of mistakes that we've seen in the past is people putting their They're classics inside a heated garage, whether that's radiant flooring or some type of forced air. It can do a fair amount of cosmetic damage to the boats, just drying them out. So we see that a lot. So this is where we put them. We have all the marina equipment. So whether that's a travel lift, we put the bigger boats right down the middle, and then everything else is pushed in with a hydraulic trailer, which you can kind of see there on the right as well. So these are all customers that we work on all these boats. So what we're seeing here is every one of them is a wooden boat. And so that's the kind of thing once we restore a boat, they always come back around, whether that obviously just for maintenance or somebody gets too excited coming into the docks, whatever that may be. We're always there to help out. So Skipper, this is the 32-foot runabout, we'll call it, that we built. So the story of this is that it was always a family boat. I can I'll pull up a picture of finished product. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. So this boat was built for the current owner's grandfather in the late 40s. And so it was built by the Norse Boat and Ski Company. They're based up in Penetanguishene, and of course this boat was made, and it was used throughout that era. And somewhere along the line, the boat got lost. It was given to the current owner's uncle, and somewhere or another he had sold it or lost it or whatever the story is. And the current owner, he needed, once he became a man of means, and he did end up finding it, and it was in rough shape. He found it in a field behind a marina kind of thing, and it underwent a 7-year restoration at that point. So completely redone by an establishment up in that area. And shortly after that, in a matter of years, is when the accident took place. There was a caretaker that would go start the boat every so often when, the owner was away. And he didn't quite take the mooring cover off of it. It was in a boathouse, but he just kind of crawled in there. And there was they don't really know what happened, but it seems to be there was a bit of a carburetor leak, and the blower was just recirculating the fumes underneath of the cover. So there was a massive explosion, and the caretaker, he did survive. He got burnt up pretty good, but he survived. But the boat had sunk, and the boathouse was destroyed and actually came crashing down on top of the boat. So Bill was quite determined to do something about it. So he had all of the remains kind of brought out of the water, which, I guess he had to do anyways. Took lots of pictures and stuck it in storage. So unfortunately, I have a big billboard, and this boat was actually written up in Wooden Boat magazine. The whole story, Bruce Kemp, he's really a marine wooden boat exclusive writer. So he wrote up a story about this whole thing, and there's all kinds of burnt pictures. But this was a 4-year process. So what we're looking at here is us starting that process. So anyways, the boat was in storage, burnt to a crisp, and the owner, he called me up and he wanted to fix it. And I quickly realized that there's not a whole lot of salvageable material here. We need to build a new boat. So with the help of Steve Killing, He's really a world-renowned yacht designer up in Midland. He made this an easy thing for us to do. There's a big write-up in Wooden Boat Magazine about the process that he used, using telegraphy, technology, documenting the wooden boat, the burnt structure, and gave us lines drawings that, again, those lines drawings are transferred into the mold stations, which, when we're looking at this boat upside down here, we're pretty well wrapping our ribs around a mold. So yeah, Steve Killing really made this easy peasy for us. The boat was modified slightly for more speed. You asked the question of what would you change about this thing, Bill? And he'd say, well, it'd be nice to hit 40 miles an hour with it. So just by straightening out the stem and keel a little bit, it was historically shaped more of like a Nike check mark. A lot more boat was left in the water originally than there is now. Now it'll get right up and go. But this is kind of a good perspective of what was done. So all these ribs are locally sourced white oak. We're using green, so wet wood, a tree that's been cut down within the last few months. We'll mill that up and steam bend. I used to know how many there was, but again, the story of just of just commitment to make this exactly the same as it was, minus the fact that we've modified the bottom to make it go faster. The construction techniques were exactly the same, which was relatively painful in this process here. Through every plank, they were actually hand done nail and roves. So the labor involved was intense. So at every intersection of plank and rib, there would have been three 2-inch long copper nails drilled, and then the nail drives through, and then somebody on the inside would, more or less, a copper cup washer would be pounded over top of that nail, and simply put, you're kind of beating those two ends at the same time and creating a rivet. And it's the ultimate fastener. But could we have done this cheaper and quicker and the whole 90? Yes, we could have just screwed it together and been done with it, but that wasn't the point. It needed to be exactly the same. So we've done everything we possibly could to do that. Here's Skipper upside down. We're just about finished the topside planks. It's kind of interesting to see that the bottom below the waterline is Carvel plank, so meaning that the planks meet edge to edge, and there's no in comparison to the sides, which would be lapstrake. So we find that very, very cool. But this boat handles amazingly. So this is all Western red cedar. Comes from out west, of course. So it's planked with Western red cedar. All the main structure is white oak. The stem and keel and transom and chine and would all been kiln dried. So at this point, we have the boat flipped upright, and this just reminds me of, we did go through the whole process of working with the designer and working and staring at pictures. But this is where things really started I really started to realize that this boat needs to be exactly the same. It's more or less a marriage between me and the owner. He was down. There wasn't 2 days that went by that we wouldn't be on the phone discussing. And so what it resulted in, like I was saying, sure, there were designs done and drawings done of what this boat how we should make it, but often the customer would say that's not the same, Andrew. It's not the same. And so we spent a lot of time in the burnt boat. We had the burnt boat on site, and we would find a bit of a burnt shade of a cabinet. We were able to see where the foredeck actually stopped to be within, to be exactly the same length. And it was amazing how the customer, he just knew this boat like the back of his hand. It was something obviously that he's been around with his whole life. And nothing mattered. He respectfully, often, it's hard, right? It's hard to tell somebody it's great, but you got to redo it. And he was a master at encouraging me that, hey, this is going to be worth it. But you got to sorry, but you got to redo it. So this is where it all kind of started to come into play. We're working on the deck flooring and the foredeck. All these were critical just to kind of get things set up correctly. Again, this is just a look at the lap strake planking. I think looks like we're into the primer stages here. So now it's really kind of starting to come into shape. Yeah, I just thought artistic value here of this picture. Very cool. So another example of, originally this boat would have been painted with a high lead paint that was orange, red lead. And so we opted not to use that. It's pretty well banned in Canada right now. So we just recreated that ourselves, but it had to be the same, so this is just a reminder of the extent. So a lot of hardware had to be custom made for this boat. This as example, all these lettering were custom made from pictures. There was an establishment out in Midland at the time, Jerry Adley of I forget the name of his company, but he really took ownership of that. Like, we had this section that we see made, a lot of these unique vents he was able to remake and have chromed. Just a crazy thing. So here we're looking at finished result. Feel like we did miss a few along the process there, but just an example of like these curves here that we're seeing, and the height of this cabin top and the rake were just very difficult to get exactly the same. At the end of the day, we did it. So yeah, big picture, this boat really should have been a 2-year build, but this took us 4 years to accomplish. Just in the sense of we redid a lot of things. So yeah, it's set up with twin 305s. Beautiful setup. And yeah, this is one of the pictures that was used. So this is running down the river here on the Rideau River. This boat was used in the Wooden Boat magazine. But yeah, just looking at this boat. So since this picture, we had to refine it, how she rode a little bit. We had to bring the back up out of the water. The customer would get up on the front and he would notice that the spray just isn't spraying quite the same as it used to. So, I mean, we entertained it and we wanted to get to the bottom of it. So it really just resulted in putting in a small shim at the back of the boat to bring it up a bit. And that resolved that issue. So really, in summary, that's the story of Skipper. This is just kind of a kicker for our Merrickville Wooden Boat Show. So this would be, we're coming up on our second annual Wooden Boat Show. It's at the end of May. Last year we had near 60 wooden boats on display. We had on land, in water. We had some interesting other vendors. The the owner of Beaver Tails, is a customer of mine. So he brings down his Beaver Tails truck, and we have live music. So this last year was terrible weather, but this year we're doing a 2-day event. So hopefully one of those days is fantastic. We'd love to see you guys out there. There's over 15 boats for sale. Here's another. And anyways, guys, I really want to thank you for the time spent with me today. And yeah, if you want, I'm open to some questions. I can I'll take my screen sharing off and open
Stop sharing. We get your face up here and we can go into some questions. Okay, you can turn off the Zoom sharing as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having
me. Do we have any questions or comments about this presentation about Ron?
Yeah, I'm wondering how easily it is that you source the woods that you need to use in these boats.
Yeah, it is relatively easy. There's several companies that are importing the mahogany, antique, which would be the main kind of imports. There's a company out in Burlington that we use, Exotic Woods. And then there's an establishment out by me, the Wood Source, who's also specializing in exotic woods as well. So not a really big deal. Often it's hard to find good, clean, wet, so green white oak. You just have to kind of be around when a farmer cuts down a tree. But over the years we've built up some connections that can source it. But that's where we've been stuck before, is actually just sourcing the clean, the wet, the green oak, the white oak. But other than that, everything's seems available. There's never been a shortage as of yet.
And why does the oak have to be green and wet? Is that so it bends more easily?
Correct. Yeah, when we're doing a lot of these boats, Skipper being one of them, is oak ribbed, and to facilitate that bend really as best as you can use kiln dried oak. But the wet wood, you could make that and just wrap it around your arm if you wanted to. And the steaming process, so what the process would be, securing your green wet oak and steaming it in a steam box at boiling temps. For the rule of thumb is an hour per half inch of thickness. And then it just comes out like a noodle. And that steaming process actually cures the oak as well. That was kind of confusing for us at the beginning when we were figuring out, but the steaming process actually is it kind of boils all those oils in that wood, and it's cured.
And that's what you mean by curing? It gets the oils out of the wood, or it gets the insects out of the wood?
It boils like I forget the name of the what is inside of the wood. The oils in the wood get boiled, and then by the time the wood cools off, that is cured. And so now you're no longer dealing with a piece of wood with moisture content of 80%. It's greatly reduced to 30% relatively quickly.
Great.
Yeah, have you only done power boats, or have you ever restored wooden sailboats?
We've done some smaller sailboats. We've done a small folk boat. We've done a Peterborough float well, which is more or less a canoe with a sailing. But I've kind of shied away a little bit from some of the bigger sailboats. There's been a little bit of interest, but there's a fellow that almost specializes in that in Nestleton. Ken Lavalette of Woodwind Yachts is really I've been to his shop a few times, and he is dialed in with the sailboats. He's really the man involved there. Yeah, mostly motorboats is what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Judith,
What percentage of skipper, for example, is original and what it has been stored? And second part of that question is, at what point do you look at a boat and say it's beyond our help? That there isn't enough of it left to do anything with?
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing on the boat that's original.
So it's a rebuild.
It's complete. It's a new boat. Yeah, it's a brand new boat. Yeah, we started from the ground up and over. Yeah.
Patrick's got his hand up.
Yeah.
The other half of my question didn't get answered.
Andrew, I'm in the UK. But you used to be in Canada. Fascinating talk. Thank you very much. I always used to love going to Port Carling and seeing all their wooden boats there. Do you ever have Dukes? Is it Dukes? Are they still in business?
The establishment is still open. I think they're still restoring boats.
Oh, okay.
We have one Duke on site. We're doing some we're having the engine rebuilt. But yeah, they're still they're up there with the desirability. Yeah.
Lovely. So another question I have, what is the significance between left-hand drive and right-hand drive? I noticed your boats were all different.
Yeah, I mean, that's been brought up before. With skipper as example, yeah, you're driving on the port side.
Yeah.
People have asked me, is that a Canadian thing? And we've seen it go both ways. I don't think there's, maybe there is a real answer, but they're all over the place. It's not a real standard thing.
thank you. Can we go back to Judith's second part of Judith's question? Do you want to repeat that, Judith?
I just wondered, Andrew, what point do you say we're not going to be able to do anything? I mean, the skipper, you recreated it, but you had a big part of it that you could start from. But at what point do you say there is nothing we can start from?
At what point? Yeah, I mean,
have you ever gotten to that point?
Well, yeah, I mean, it usually comes down to financials. Somebody, a lot of boats don't get, they get rejected. They reject the labor involved. Often I mean, I'm trying to kind of dissect your question a little bit. So somebody brings me, often it's the small cedar strips that are brought to me, and people don't realize how much work is involved with these things. So a boat that they bought for $3,000, it may be $50,000 to re-rib it and put a transom on it, and we justify and explain the processes. But often it would be actually cheaper to build a new cedar strip than to restore it, just get away from the disassembly. So it's like once your structure, like say if all of your framework is rotten and we can kind of restore it unless it's burnt like skipper where we're missing so much and just there's really nothing, there was nothing really left. We've restored some boats that really had no business being restored, but it comes down to people looking at these boats as family members. It's not a financial decision. It's this boils down to, hey, this is my uncle. I just dragged this boat out of my uncle's property that I was given, and I remember it as a child. And that's where the majority of the customers are coming from that can rationalize spending a disproportionate amount of money on having something like that restored.
You gave us an example of one cost, one restoration. Can you give us an example approximately how much did Skipper cost to repair, rebuild?
Yeah, I mean,
In terms of design and
it's
everything.
about $1 million.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh,
Okay, well. Okay, Michael,
Is there any veneer, is it all wood, is there any veneering involved?
On Skipper, there was absolutely no veneer involved. Often we would not be using veneer in anything that we restore. Often on a boat from factory, they may be using some veneered plywood or something like that. But no, we don't. We try to shy away from that as much as we can. I mean, we use marine plywoods for a lot of applications, whether that be some interior paneling on a boat or the underlying substrate to a bottom. We'll use some plywood, but honestly, typically we try to kind of stay with the solid wood.
okay, Andrew, that was fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your experience
welcome.
and your knowledge. You've got a very interesting place, and many people will be interested in coming to see it. And maybe what did you say, May 30th to 31st?
May 30th. Yeah, 30th and 31st.
So that might be a night, it's a weekend, I presume.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, because you're not here, I cannot hand you a little token of appreciation, but I will be sending that to you in the mail. So let's just give him another round of applause. And perhaps we'll meet in person sometime. I'm going to
Yes.
add you to our mailing list, so you will get a copy of what's coming up. And indeed, our next speaker is Bruce Kemp, and he's going to be talking about the sinking and resurrection of Severn 2. He'll be with Erwin Naidu and Cedric Giles, who's the owner of Severn 2. It sank last summer, just off Toronto Island, if I remember correctly. And then on April 1st, we will have Phil Dawson talking about the Kiwanis, that came from Port Nicol to Kingston with Marine Museum. So Phil is right here. We look forward to having that presentation. And so, again, thank you all for being here today. And I think we have lunch coming up. So.